I was a psychology major in college, and I graduated magna cum laude. I was Phi Beta Kappa. I was an extremely, extremely successful psychology student. The only problem was I didn't learn anything about how to live. All of my courses were about rats and statistics and people in mental institutions. There was no real model for how to live. And to be honest, my psychology professors were not the healthiest people I ever met. They had a lot of aberrations and problems in their life. And, you know, if psychology is supposed to teach you how to live, it wasn't working. Later I learned, I went to Greece, and my host, in Greek, psyche, means soul. It does not mean mind. If I ask most people what is psyche, they would say, well, your mind. No, no, no. It means your soul. And she said, psychology really means the study and understanding of the soul. So I graduated from college, and I was still pretty frustrated because I didn't know how to live. And I was playing head games, and I had on and off relationships, and I was taking various not narcotics, but drug substances, psychedelics and marijuana. And I was still hungry. Psychology did not feed my soul. Then in graduate school, I took a program in humanistic psychology, which said that we're not just bodies walking around, we're not just personalities walking around, we're not just minds walking around, but we are spiritual beings. And the goal of life was not to cope or survive, but the goal of life is to live. That the purpose of life is not to arrive safely at death. And I started hearing terms like self-actualization and self-realization and self-expression. I thought, oh yeah, I like that. That's a lot more fun than rats and statistics. And so I began on what some people might call my spiritual journey. I began to look for meaning in life that academia had never bestowed upon me. And I found it. There's a wonderful passage in the course that's called The Picture and the Frame. And it says, consider two pictures. One where there's a great big gaudy gold gilded heavy frame and a tiny, tiny picture. And that frame is filled with jewels and diamonds. It's very ostentatious. And it says there's another picture where that's a beautiful, lovely, splendiferous, light-filled image with a very light frame, just enough to honor and set off the image. So in this lesson, the course is talking about setting our priorities. And it's also describing the difference between spirit and form. The analogy is that spirit is the picture. It is the thing that we're here for. It is the reason we are looking at it. It is the intention behind our life. And form, the frame, is the way that the channel through which this spirit comes to life. And of course, as we get too often distracted between the picture and the frame, that it can happen that our life becomes about the frame. It's about the body and doing and achievement and accomplishment and ego. And it says we can get so overwhelmed and burdened by the form that we forget the essence, which is spirit. I was reading the ingredients of a toothpaste tube once. I don't know, maybe do that, but I did it. And it had all these ingredients, and then it said the active ingredient. And then it gave some chemical name. And I thought, isn't it interesting that there's like 20 ingredients in this, but there's only one that's the active ingredient. Isn't that interesting? In other words, if you had all those 19 inactive ingredients and you brushed your teeth, it probably wouldn't really help your teeth very much. But if you have the active ingredient, that's the thing. That's the only one you really need. And all that other stuff is filler and fluff. Like, iodine is clear, but the manufacturers put red in it to make you think it's doing something, because if it's red, it looks like it's real. If it's clear, it may be a fake. But the active ingredient in iodine is invisible. It's not the red. The red had nothing to do with the iodine helping your cut heal. It's the active ingredient is invisible. So we can also say that the active ingredient in life is invisible in the sense that it is the spiritual element. And so if you have everything but spirit, you have nothing. But if you have only spirit, you have everything.